Hi, good morning. Daniel Isaac Saul here from London. Firstly, thank you to all the organizers of this Faradi Habura. It's amazing work and we're seeing amazing results. We're loving all the shiurim and everything you guys are putting out. Just a quick thought on the Parasha. Try to keep it succinct. Near the beginning of the Parasha Shemot, it seems like things are moving very fast for Bnei Israel. What seems like overnight, in the space of a couple of Pesukim, as a nation, they changed from being Rav Atzum Mimenu, a mighty nation, to building Ari Miskenot, to building storehouses and working Befarech for the Misriim in Egypt. The question is, where's the buffer zone? There must have been some sort of process to get from being Rav Atzum Mimenu, a mighty Bnei Israel, to being Avadim. Or was it not needed for some reason? Was there some shortcut that the Egyptians could implement? I think in order to get to the crux of this, we have to go back a couple of parashiot to Parashat Vayigash, the last aliyah in Parashat Vayigash. In short, the whole aliyah starts with Yosef accepting his father and his brothers down to Mitzrayim, giving them property in Goshen, setting up some sort of food system to feed the family, the children, presumably sustained system. Then the majority of the aliyah in the middle is the Mitzrayim complaining that there's a famine and they need Yosef to feed them. Yosef selling them food in exchange for money, cattle, livestock. Eventually, in the last year, he exchanges food for their land and arranges some sort of tax/rental agreement whereby 20% of the produce has to go back into the coffers of Misraim in order to pay for the land, which now doesn't belong to the people. Interestingly, a side point, it says, the priests, the Egyptian priests, kept their land. So you've got a situation where in Egypt, the people don't own their land, and the priests do. And we know that in an ideal Jewish situation, the people own the land and they can't get rid of it. It comes back in Yovel even if they wanted to, and the Kohanim don't. That's just a side point, something very interesting to think about how and why that setup is. Back to what we're discussing. So the people don't own their land, and you might think this would now apply to the Jewish people as well, but the last pasuk in that parasha reiterates. The pasuk says, "Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim, be'eretz Goshen ve'yehazu ba." They acquired it. This was the land. They lived in it. They owned it from Yosef HaTzadik. So there's no rent to pay. There's no agreement. There's no 20% tax over here. If you own the land, you don't have to pay it. The payment was for usage of the land that doesn't belong to you. And that's reiterated after to tell us that the Jewish people, Yosef set them up in some sort of isolated, self-sustaining bubble in Mitzrayim, probably because he knew there was going to be some sort of, this was a avdut. So he thought that if you put them in a bubble in Mitzrayim, then when the time comes, they'll just be let out, and it will be a very easy slavery. It seems, however, and I'm using that word intentionally, that his plan of putting the Bnei Israel in an isolated bubble in Goshen kind of backfired in our parasha. If we use the explanation of the Orah Haim HaKadosh on those three words that we said before, Rav Atzum Mimenu, he says that Mimenu could be going back on the Mitzrayim. The Egyptians are saying, these people are Rav Atzum Mimenu from us. They're getting preferential treatment to us. We're paying and they're living. And all they needed to do, because of this setup that Yosef gave them, the Egyptians just needed to pull the rug out from under their feet, quite literally, stop supporting them, remove their land, even just to make them start paying a 20% tax after 100 years of not paying that would quickly create a downward spiral from the cherut to avdut. I think that's possibly why there was no real process. The Egyptians decided, and they could implement pretty soon, to get from the Jewish people from being free people as guests of Paro to being slaves. So really this is just the thought process that I'm going through, because Yosef wanted them to be isolated. But would it have been better had they been fully integrated into Egyptian society? Maybe it would have created a longer period of time, a gradual process. Maybe the Egyptians wouldn't have feared the unknown if the Jewish people, if the Bnei Israel were all living in one area. Then that creates distance between the Mitzrayim and the Bnei Israel, an uncomfortable distance. Maybe if they were integrated a bit more, that wouldn't have been there. Obviously, the Shaibud was going to happen either way, but it's something for us to think on how we integrate. Fully integration has also got its downsides that we're dealing with, assimilation, etc. But full isolation also doesn't seem to be the answer. We need to maybe take this as a message that to find the Shvila Imtzai, the Shvila Zahav, the middle path, to integrate with society, but not at the cost of anything of the Torah and mitzvot that we keep. Thank you very much. Just a thought. Shabbat Shalom.